Okay, so to do this on-shape assignment, essentially, I'm going to toggle back and forth through some screens here. But you're basically going to take your shapes, right, and recreate them, right? So again, I'll use these shapes as an example. I'll draw three here. So we're going to draw this in on-shape, okay, this L shape. So when you're in on-shape, go to Create, Document. Make sure to title your document. So this will be the SOMA cube. Hit OK. Now, it's important to remember to label all your sketches. So when we're in our drawings here, we're going to basically draw the outside profile. We're going to draw this L here. So the first thing I'm going to do is click Sketch. Now I have to click the plane. I'm going to draw this on the front plane. So I'm going to click the plane. Now I can do one of two things. I could hit the front plane on the view cube, or I can hit N on my keyboard. And that does normal to it. Brings me to a normal view of whatever plane we're looking at. Now, we're going to draw this L. So the easiest way to do that is pick the line tool. So it's either L on your keyboard or the line command. Now I like to start from an origin. So this is the origin dot here. We're going to start this here. I'm just going to click and draw a rough outline of my shape. What you want to make sure is everything is either horizontal or vertical. So you'll notice that on-shape kind of snaps into position. Don't worry about adding the dimensions now. We will add those after. I'm just going to draw a rough shape of the L. And you can see if I hover over points, it will kind of lock and find the track. Basically want to make sure I'm creating an L. Now, once I have my shape, I want to exit out of the line tool. So I can hit escape or spacebar, or I can hit right click and hit escape line. So you can do this for any tool. Just right click and escape. So now you're not in the line tool anymore and you have this two-dimensional sketch that we need to make three-dimensional. But first, we need to define this. So our cubes are actually 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. But let's assume these are all 1 inch by 1 inch to make it easier. So this is 1, 2, 3 inches long by 1, 2 inches wide. So going back to our cube here, we can give this dimension. So there's a dimension tool. If you hit D on your keyboard or hit this button here called dimensions, we have to define this sketch. Right now our lines are blue. We need to make sure these are all black, and when they're all black, it locks everything in place. So I'm going to define this point and this point. I click once, drag, click again, and now what I can do is type in 2. The units are already in inches, or sorry, 3. Hit enter. So now it resizes everything. From here to here's 3. I'm going to define this point, and that will be 1 inch. I'm going to define this line here is going to be 2, and this line here is going to be 1. So we defined everything we need to. We don't need to define this line because 2 plus 1 is 3. And I want to double check. I think I might have made this wrong. Yeah, there's only 2 on the bottom. So this distance would actually be 1. There we go. That looks better. So we're looking at the front view here. We have our L shape. It's 3 inches by 1 inch by 2 by 1 by 1. It's fully defined, meaning there's no blue lines. It's all black. Excellent. So before we escape this, let's change the name of this sketch. So I'm going to rename this to shape 1, and I will hit the green check mark. Great. So you'll see on the feature tree over here, my shape 1. I can right click and rename this if I want to here. It's important that you rename your stuff as you go. Now, we need to turn this into a 3-dimensional object. So in order to do that, we click the extrude button up here, or Shift E. So if I click this button where my cursor is blinking once, a little box is going to come up, and this is important. It's going to ask you for a new, add, remove, or intersect. You're going to leave it at new, and you're going to select the gray area. And that automatically extrudes in the direction outward. Now we can change the direction if we want. It doesn't really matter for this. We just want to make sure that our cube is coming out. Like we said, each block for this purpose is going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. So the depth here is 1 inch. It's new. I'm going to rename this extrusion as shape 1 and hit the green check mark. So now, if you look at our tree, our feature tree, or our history tree, we have our shape 1 sketch, our extrusion, and then at the bottom here is our part. It's a good idea to rename the part. You right click, rename, and we'll name this as shape 1. It's a good idea to rename all our parts because as everything gets more advanced, you want to be able to quickly identify where your stuff is. So that's one way to draw a shape, okay, is to, one, make sure you start with the sketch, make sure all the lines are defined with black lines, extrude it, and name each of your sketches, your extrusions, and your parts. And we're going to draw every shape in here. If you feel like you want more practice, I'll include another video in here.